I want to show you some knots that my grandma taught me a long time ago. Maybe they're commonplace to you, or maybe they're new. They save me a lot of headache. It's a lot easier than tying half hitches all the time. So I brought my thread through the fabric, and I'm going to do that again. And that creates a loop. You'll want to put your needle through the loop and pull it tight, and that secures your thread. I'll do that one more time. Pierce the fabric, leave a tail, pierce the fabric again, draw your thread through the loop, and your thread is secured. I generally work with a single strand of thread. This is just a real quick way to secure it to the fabric. Another knot I like to use when I'm tying off once a project is finished is, you can do the same exact thing, or if for some reason it's kind of hard to get at and you don't have that much room, trust me, you'll know what I'm talking about when you start doing a lot of repairs. You make a loop with your hand, and where you want that knot to end up, just put your finger down and then pull. So I'll do that one again too. Make a loop, put your needle through, very much like that other knot, but this time you're going to place your finger where you want that knot to end up and pull. You'll see I'm working in an embroidery hoop. Embroidery hoops prevent your fabric from shifting. I also honestly feel like it's easier to keep track of my where the flaw is that I'm trying to repair in a big item like a dress, like in a big skirt or something, or a confined space like a sleeve. It's easy for me to keep track of where my my problem area is in the first place. I also like to always work on the top side, and embroidery hoops make that very easy. This is for efficiency, for one thing. You stick your needle in and you pull it out, and you draw the thread through. Stick your needle in, pull it out, draw your thread through, as opposed to going down, pulling the thread through, coming up, pulling the thread through. And besides, it's harder, especially like I said, in a confined space or in a big skirt, to know where to come up. Let's say, you know, you've got all this material and you got to flip it over and you got to figure out where you're going to come up. It's just a lot easier overall to work on the top side. Besides, you really are able to see how the repair is going when you're just working on the top side. Having said that, doesn't mean that you have to use an embroidery hoop. I don't always. Sometimes it's a pain, and sometimes it's a joy. So it really depends on the repair itself and personal preference. I want to show you the stitch pattern that I do for repairs. When I was learning to sew, to bring a slit like this together, you put your needle on one side and bring it up on the other side and pull a little taut, and that brings the fabric together. And the stitches are across that slit. I'm doing a bigger than life stitch pattern, but so you can see. So that's how I started out doing repairs. But I've started to do something a little different. I come up on one side, but in that hole that I just came up, I just go in very close to it, just enough that the fabric or the thread stays in that fabric, and then come up on the other side and again go very close to the hole that I just came up. And then I bring it tight enough just to bring that slit together and continue up doing the repair with that same pattern. And you can see, even though I didn't do a good job on either one of these, that your stitches are so much more invisible than the other way. And yet it's just as effective. Now with this one, the big stitches are on the back side. And this does have a problem of you still being able to see that raw edge. This pattern helps with the raw edge quite a bit more, but I find that if you cut a little bit of this away, maybe use fray check on it if it's called for, or just leave it, it just doesn't distract from the whole dress generally. If you do find that you want that raw edge covered, I just do a very tiny whip stitch over that. So your whip stitch is not integral to the structure of the repair. It's not actually holding the fabric together. It's just covering those raw edges and holding them down a little bit more.